Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Myers, and today I want to talk about Christian nationalism. It doesn't work, or maybe it does. Do you agree or disagree? So we want to look here at Christian nationalism and see, is it going to work? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we can look at the past and see what has happened in the past when there was Christian nationalism. Some of the questions to answer: can you legislate religious morality? Are God's laws given at Mount Sinai for us today to follow? Can you bring God's kingdom to earth? Some think that if we have a Christian nation, Jesus Christ will return and rule and reign. And we want to look at the 7 mountains mandate. And we want to look at different examples from history where you have Christian nationalism. We want to look at the 7 mountain mandate. What is that? Well, the movement is believed to have begun in 1975 with a message supposedly from God delivered to evangelicals Lauren Cunningham, Bill Bright, he's with Campus Crusade for Christ, and you have Francis Schaeffer ordering them to invade the 7 spheres of society, which they identified as the family, religion, education, media, entertainment, business, and government. So you need to invade them, take it over, and control these 7 spheres, or they call 7 mountains for God. I remember Francis Schaeffer way back then. He had how shall we then live? It had video and a book out about how we should live. And then in 2013, there was the publication Invading Babylon, the 7 Mountain Mandate by Wallen and Bill Johnson, which adopted a more militant or dominion-oriented focus strategically in social and political influence. The movement's theology is based on the passage in Revelation 17:9. It mentions the 7 mountains, which in Revelation is many think is referring to Rome, the 7 mountains of Rome there. The idea that Christians should actively take control of these social mountains to establish God's kingdom on earth. And for some, if they do that, they believe Jesus will return and rule and reign on earth. Well, let's go back and look at the very first union of church and state. We have Constantine, the first Constantine the Great, and he was a Christian, or supposedly a Christian. He wasn't baptized till the end of his life, because the belief that if you get baptized, it'll wash away all your sins. So you do it right at the end of your life, so all your bad sins during your life are washed away. But he convened the Council of Nicaea in 325, where he brought all the bishops, elders together to come up with they came up with the Nicene Creed of what Christianity is all about. And they did that. And the problem is, if you didn't follow or believe the creed, you were in big trouble. And there was a big debate with Athanasius debating Arius on their views. Let's take a closer look at Arius. Arius did not believe the Trinity, and they debated about this. And it became so heated that the bishop Nicholas, that's St. Nicholas, slapped Arius in the face. And here's one of the pictures there showing this. And notice the gold around St. Nicholas, which we get our Santa Claus today. And this is, I thought, oh, this is terrible that Santa Claus is slapping Arius in the face here. But the debate was heated. And Arius lost, and Athanasius prevailed, and they believed in the Trinity. And what happened was that if you believed Arius's view, any writings that were found were to be handed over to be burned. And on the left here, at the bottom, you can see them burning his writings there. And you have Constantine above. And so nothing was to be left behind. Everything was supposed to be burned. And Constantine I made this a public order that if you should be discovered to have hidden a writing composed by Arius and not have immediately brought it forward and destroyed it by fire, his penalty shall be death. And as soon as he is discovered in this offense, he shall be submitted to capital punishment. And this is from Constantine himself. So he had destroyed all the writings, and you couldn't be found with him. And so what happened is those that followed Arius, his belief, fled to the east, where Constantine may not have been in control. This would include parts of Palestine and further the east. So if you believed in the Trinity and the Nicene Creed, everything would be great. But if you didn't, you were in big trouble. Now, with the Constantine and the church working together, they could build big, huge churches here. And here we have the Church of Hagia Sophia, the Church of Wisdom, built by Justinian in this around 532 to 537. Took him a number of years to build this big, huge church. But now today it is a mosque. But there was a great value in having the unity of church and state, because you had lots of money to build lots of things. The only problem is if you didn't believe that way, you were in trouble. You would be persecuted. We come to the year 1054 when there's a big split, the Great Schism, between the Roman Catholic Church of the West and the Greek Orthodox of the East here. And I guess you can't see it too well, but here's like the dividing line here between the East and the West. The Greek Orthodox, you have the Greek that was spoken. In Roman Catholic Church, you have Latin spoken. And a big icon controversy, whether you could have icons, what kind of icons you could have in the church. And so there's this big split in the church in 1054. And one of the main problems then with church and state, if you didn't believe in their religion, you were in big trouble here. And we see the Spanish Inquisition as evidence of this. The Tribunal of the Holy Office of the Inquisition was established in 1478 by King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella I. And this was the same king and queen who sent Christopher Columbus to discover America, or really a passageway to the east, but he discovered America instead. Now what happened was that the Muslims had taken over southern Spain, and the Catholics in their power pushed them out, and they were to convert. In 1492, there was a decree, 1502, ordering Jews and Muslims to convert to Catholicism or leave Spain. And so thousands of Jews converted to Christianity, thousands of Muslims converted to Christianity. And there was also mass expulsions where they left. They didn't want to stay there. They left Spain. And we had this Inquisition. At first, it was mainly to see, were these Jews really converted? Or were they just putting on a front, but in their hearts they still believed in Judaism and the ways of Judaism? And then you had the Muslims who converted. Well, we have to make sure they weren't really, maybe in secret they were still following Islam, following Allah, praying to Allah. And so you have the Spanish Inquisition. And you would be burned in the flames if they found out you were still a Jew or Muslim or still a heretic. You'd be burned at the stake. And this is one of the problems with church and state uniting. If you don't believe this certain way, you could be burned at the stake. Then you have the Protestant Reformation, starting in the 1500s with Martin Luther in 1519, nailing the 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Church there in Germany. And this started the Protestant Reformation. And then you have John Calvin in Geneva, Switzerland. And the result was you have the Catholics, you have the French, France and Spain, the Holy Roman Empire. And there was war, a 30 years war, fighting out against the Protestants, against the Catholics, between 1618 and 1648. And this is what happens when you have church and state united. You don't always agree. You have different states, different empires fighting it out. What is the correct religion to follow? And this is what happened. There was many casualties with the 30 Years' War. But back in Geneva, John Calvin, they wanted him to come to Geneva, Switzerland, and I guess to bring heaven on earth with all these policies to follow in the steps of the Protestant Reformation, following the Bible, biblical rules that you found in the Old Testament. And here we look at some of them. For worship and doctrine, you have blasphemy. That if you cursed, took the Lord's name in vain, you would be punished. If you were a practice or Roman Catholic or heretic, some of these crimes were punishable by death. And then if you didn't attend a church, if you were absent from hearing the sermon, you could be censured and get into trouble. And then there was, if there was fornication, adultery, marital disputes, domestic abuse, they all had different punishments. Then for morals and public order, you have drunkenness, gambling, indecent songs, brawl, fighting, all punishable. Even if you luxurious, the sumptuary laws to curb extravagant dress, jewelry, feasts, ceremonies, and even today, some of the jewelry, a lot of some of the Protestants, I think of Amish, no jewelry, even no engagement ring. I live near a number of Amish, and what you did, instead of giving a engagement ring, you would give a clock, because they didn't believe in all this fancy jewelry. Then the most famous case there was Michael Servetus was convicted of heresy. He didn't believe in the Trinity, and so he was executed. Calvin was the prosecutor, and because there's the union of church and state there, he was executed. John Calvin and others, Reformation, they looked to the Bible, especially the Old Testament, for what laws should be followed here. This is kind of small here. I'll need my glasses. But especially in Leviticus here, if you give your child in sacrifice to Moloch, you are supposed to be stoned to death. If you're cursing your father and mother, death. But it doesn't specify what kind of death. If you're caught in adultery, death. And if intercourse with a father's wife, death. Intercourse with a daughter-in-law, death. A male lying with male, death. If a man takes a woman and her mother, death by burning. If a man lies with an animal, death. For the man and the animal is killed. If a woman lies with an animal, also death, and the animal is killed. Mediums, witches, death by stoning. The priest's daughter who profanes her whoring, death by burning. And then this means if the priest's daughter becomes a prostitute, she needs to be burned. Then blasphemy. If you take the Lord's name in vain, you're supposed to be stoned to death. So if you hit your hand with a hammer trying to hammer a nail or something and you say a curse, I guess I'm in trouble. Death by stoning. And then homicide, if you kill another human, death. So we have all these capital punishments in Leviticus, and a lot of these reformers, they would follow these punishments, even death. And even today, we have those that want to continue to follow the Old Testament laws. And I think of Bill Gothard's seminar, where a lot of these, he takes all these laws from the Old Testament, because God's law is perfect, so we should be following them today. And he has these 7 steps. If you follow these, your life will be richly rewarded and blessed. But there's a lot of problems there. Not everything works out that way, even though he has glowing testimony. But maybe it may work for that person, but it may not work for others. And I remember going to one of the seminars there. One extreme was the Cabbage Patch doll. It's demonic. It has demonic names, and you shouldn't have it, or your child may become demon-possessed, and it's a bad influence. And there's a movie out, interesting one, called shiny, happy people. I think it's on Prime. I'll try to put a link below there. Trying to follow all these rules and regulations. And when in the book of Acts it tells us what the Gentiles should be following. And that brings up the question, are God's laws given on Mount Sinai for us to follow today? Well, if you're Jewish, you may want to do that. These laws were given to God and were perfect for us to follow and have a blessed life, some will say. But when the council, in Acts chapter 15, it talks about the council coming together of the Christian leaders. And James is the leader there. And it says, now therefore, why tempt ye God to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? But we believe that through the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, we shall be saved even as they. And then it's skip down to verse 19. Wherefore my sentence is, this is his judgment, what he believes is right, that we trouble not them, the Gentiles, which from among the Gentiles have turned to God. But that we write unto them that they abstain from the pollution of idols, from fornication, from things strangled, and from blood. So these are the four things that the Gentiles who have turned to God, turned to Jesus, should follow. Not all these rules and regulations in Leviticus that were such a burden to the Jews. And the blood, referring here, they think this goes back to Leviticus chapter 17 and 18, where it talks about the foreigners that are among you, not to eat or drink the blood of the animals that you are sacrificing or that you eat, because the life is in the blood. And so we think that's what it's referring to, going back to Leviticus chapter 17 and 18. So I think we don't need to go back to the Old Testament and all these rules and regulations. Some were good. Some wonder why it has these four rules. And some of the other manuscripts, there's a divergent that says to follow the golden rule. That makes a little bit more sense. And some moralize these instead of going back to Leviticus. So according to the council here in Acts chapter 15, we don't need to follow all these rules and regulations. When the Pilgrims came to America, and there was the Mayflower Compact of self-government, and they had these rules to follow, and we want to look in more detail at all the different rules that they came together, uniting their own church and state here of rules that they would consent to. Here are some of the rules here for Sabbath breaking. If you worked or traveled or even played games on Sunday, that was a fine. And if you repeat it, you could be put in stocks. And here you can see a picture of what the stocks look like. Only your feet were shackled. And of course, this is public for public humiliation. Then if you skipped worship, if you didn't attend church, there would be fines, and then it could also be put in stocks. Blasphemy, profane speech, cursing, put in stocks. Or there could be a whipping or a fine. Drunkenness. You could be fined or put in stocks or whipping. Then gambling, idleness, quarreling, fined or in a stock. Fornication, marriage, fine or whipping. So back in the Old Testament there, if a man raped a woman, he was obligated to marry her and take care of her if he raped her. And that's what it means by marriage here. You had to get married. If there was sex before marriage, you had to get married then. And if there was pregnant, it may have been ordered to get married. Adultery, whippings, fines, banishment, and then theft. You had to restitution, or it could be whipping and stocks, and the restitution had to be a multiple in value. Unjust trade, fines and regulations, arms, neglect. A man was required to keep and carry arms. If you went to church, you had to bring your gun with you, because you never know what might happen. There could be Indians, something might go wrong. But back then, it was required for you to have a gun and take it with you to church. And if you see some of the early pilgrimages going to church, they're carrying their musket. Slander could be fined in public. You had publicly acknowledged that you had slandered them. Runaway servants, or even harboring runaways, whippings, and then their service or slavery was extended, and fines. Return of fugitives was required. If there was any treaty breach, restitution and fines. Murder, execution, heresy, fines, banishment, whipping. So these are the laws that you had there. And so if we want church and state here today, some may want to follow these rules based on the Old Testament. Now I want to look at the Massachusetts Bay Colony rules. This were the Puritans that came there in Massachusetts, Boston there. They formed their own rules based on the Old Testament. And we have holding of office. Only church member, a free man, could hold office. Then congregationalism was established. You had to be a congregationalist. The religious policy was mandatory worship. The Sabbaths must be kept. And there were certain ones banished. We have Roger Williams. Because they didn't agree, he was forced to flee or he was going to be executed. The Sabbath, no work, no travel, no games, or else you'd be fined or corporal punishment. The moral code, the 10 commandments. This include adultery, fornication, drunkenness, punishable. The legal codes, jury, due process. The capital laws were if you idolatry, you would be executed. Witchcraft, you'd be executed. Murder, adultery, you would be executed. Treason, execution. And of course you have the famous witch trials there. And the problem was that is We can go on to that later on. Then you have the court process, jury trials, property land grants, treaties. You had compulsory to have arms, and required towns to maintain schools, different punishments. And then what I said before was the Salem witch trials. Roger Williams left to flee. He wasn't a witch, but other ones, we'll go into that. That was in 1692. Here are the specific punishments there in Massachusetts. For breaking the Sabbath and working or traveling, there was fines, stocks, whipping. For public worship, if you didn't attend worship, fines or else put in the stocks. Blasphemy, heresy, false worship, be fines, whippings, banishment, execution in extreme cases. Adultery, whippings, fines, public shame, and capital punishment in some cases. Fornication, marriage was required. Fines or whippings. Drunkenness, fines, stocks, whippings. Gambling, idleness, vanity, fines and public correction. Witchcraft, idolatry, blasphemy were all biblical capital laws, and execution by hanging there in Massachusetts. And they hung some Quakers because they for heresy. Roger Williams escaped and founded his own colony. Murder, treason, piracy, all execution. Theft or restitution had to be made. Runaway slaves, there was whippings and had to be returned. Slander, public apology and fines. Disobedience to parents. Execution in extreme cases. And failure to keep arms, fined, and violation of trade, fine and restitution. One of the most famous cases here was George Burroughs, who was Harvard-educated minister. Harvard was started for ministers, who previously served as pastor in Salem Village. And he was very charismatic and controversial. He had disputes over salary and others with parishioners. And during the Salem witch trials, he was accused of being the ringleader of the witches. And that's one of the problems. If you didn't like someone, you could say, oh, he's a witch or she's a witch, and then get into big trouble. And they found him guilty, and he was hung for being a witch. And this shows some of the problems when you get put church and state together. Here's an overview of the different colonies before 1776. In Connecticut, you have Congregationalism, and in Massachusetts, it was Congregational government, and New Hampshire. And we saw and looked at a lot of these rules here that they had, which were prevalent in New England. And then in Georgia, you have the Church of England. In Maryland, the Church of England. North Carolina, Church of England. South Carolina, Church of England. And in Virginia, the Church of England. And then in New York, you had a mixture. Delaware, there was none. It was, I think, connected to Pennsylvania at that time. And New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, they didn't establish church and state together. You have William Penn, and he invited diversity, different religions where they could worship and not be afraid to worship their own way and their own religion. And Roger Williams fleeing and starting Rhode Island, he had a charter for that, and religious freedom, which he was a big promoter of that, and getting the Bill of Rights along with Thomas Jefferson. So we have all these different viewpoints, different church and state in a number of these colonies. And if you went from one to the other, you could be in big trouble for what you believed. Even today, in Europe, there's church states. You have Denmark, Lutheran, England, you have the Church of England, Iceland, the Lutheran Church, Greece, the Greek Orthodox Church. And then you have Norway, the Church of Norway, Lutheran. Finland, you had Lutheran and Orthodox. And then there's others, a Roman Catholic Church. Then more Orthodox Church in Cyprus, Georgia. There. So you have today, still in Europe, there's church and state, where the state would give money and support the church. And the Pilgrims and the Puritans wanted to flee from England and Europe to America because of the church-state union there. And there was much debate about the church and state. If there was a church and state united, what religion would it be? You have all this mixture of different religions in America. And they didn't like what was happening in Europe. And fortunately, they made the wise decision of separating church from state. In the Constitution, there's no mention of God there. They wanted to keep church and state separate. And so the Constitution was, in the Constitution we have this separation of church and state so you don't run into all these different problems of when church and state are married together, as you did in Europe, which they fled from. But then when they came to America, some of them that would set up their own church and state, and then if you didn't agree, some of them would be even executed. And then we have the Bill of Rights, where you have the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. And they kept this separate, and I think this was what makes America great, is the separation of church and state, and not trying to get Christian nationalism. And of course, you can vote for whoever you want. If you want a Christian in a public place, if you want a senator to be Christian or a president to be Christian, that's all right. We all have to vote of who we want in there. But not to take over and say, no, church and state, we're going to have Christian nationalism, we're going to bring in the kingdom and follow these rules and regulations that are in the Bible. The Constitution was set up just exactly the opposite of Christian nationalism. Let's go a step further into the future. According to the book of Revelation, here in Revelation 20 verse 4, it says, "Then I saw thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge." And here we have the saints judging during the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And I also saw the souls of those that had been beheaded for the testimony of Jesus and for the word of God. And they had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received the mark on their foreheads or their hands. And they came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Then the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. And this is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him 1,000 years. And here we have church and state coming together. Christ as the ruler, the king on earth, with his saints ruling with him. And what is the result of this? Now you would think with the 1,000-year reign of Christ, the perfect ruler, the perfect king, and the saints ruling with him, you'd have a perfect society and there would be no problems and nothing would go wrong. But in Revelation 20 verse 7 it says, when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, in order to gather them for battle. They are as numerous as the sands of the sea. They will march up over the breadth of the earth and surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city. I assume that would be Jerusalem. And fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Well, you think with the Christ on the throne and all these good Christian laws and saints ruling, that there would be no problems. How could Satan deceive so many people as thousands and thousands as the sand of the sea if you have a perfect nation, a perfect world government? How could this happen? Even if Christ came today and is on the throne, there would still be problems. And we see this, it's right in the book of Revelation here. How did he deceive them? It doesn't tell us here. Was there following the strict rules and so many people being stoned to death or burned or executed because they didn't follow the rules? I don't know. But Satan was able to deceive them with Christ on the throne. So don't expect Christian nationalism to work right. Don't expect a one world Christian government to work right. The results here in the book of Revelation is a complete failure. Satan is released and he easily deceives the world. How is that possible? When you have a perfect rules, a perfect ruler, perfect judgment. I don't know. But I wouldn't count on Christian nationalism to solve all your problems. Well, come to the end now, and you can make your own decision. Will Christian nationalism work if everyone's a Christian that's in the government, and the president is a Christian, and all the senators are Christians, and the house, all the ones there are Christians. Will it work? Well, you can agree or disagree with me, and I've written many things on academia.edu and also BibleandScience.com. You can see things there, and more videos are coming. If you haven't seen the one on the church fathers, are they Christians? Is it a Christian nation? You can look at that as well. Well, thank you very much, and the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you.